What up, everyone? Back for another video. This time around, we got a movie review. Just got finished watching Venom 2, Let There Be Carnage. Huh, Pup? Pup loved it. So, we're going to talk a little bit about it. I'm going to give you my quick thoughts on it, things I liked, things I didn't like, a few minor little points, and then I want to hear your thoughts on it in the comments. Hey, I'm recording. Stop it. Then I want to hear your thoughts on it in the comments, and we'll continue the conversation there. So, overall, I liked it. I liked the movie. I may be a little bit biased because I'm a huge Venom fan. He's like one of my top 5 all-time favorite characters. And same with Carnage, really cool characters. So I really enjoyed that. So I may be a little biased just because I like the character so much. But we'll talk about that. First off, movie was very short. Surprisingly short. It was only about an hour and a half long, which isn't irregular for movies in general. But it is for a superhero movie. They very rarely are less than 2 hours, just because there's a lot that's going on. There's a lot of backstory that needs to happen, so they're usually a lot longer. Not a bad thing, but just kind of surprising. I was very surprised it wasn't a longer movie. So there was that, and something to note right off the bat going into it, it's not a very serious movie. It's definitely more lighthearted. It's more of a comedy than anything else, kind of like how Ant-Man was. Like, it has serious parts, but it was mostly focused on the comedy. And that's okay, too. It's an interesting twist on Venom, because he was never very comical in the comics. Spider-Man was, and Deadpool was, and they've kind of switched it around the MCU. The Tom Holland Spider-Man isn't quite as comical, so I guess they're giving that character trait to Venom, which is fine. It's fine as long as one character's like that. And, you know, I don't mind him like that. I don't mind that change. It was pretty funny. He had a lot of very funny parts in it, and I enjoyed that. And it's much different from the comics. There's a lot of things that are twisted around, and that's all based on the whole licensing thing that Marvel and the MCU, the characters they had, the properties too, they had to start off with, so the order of things is totally switched around, which again, you know, no big deal, just things I noticed, like the origin story of Carnage is very different, so on and so forth, no big deal. One thing I wasn't a fan of that I noticed right away in the trailers was the CGI. It wasn't terrible, it wasn't awful, but it wasn't great either. And I saw that in the trailer, and I mentioned that in the nerdy news, like the CGI, not super great. It didn't matter most of the time, because most of the time when it was CGI, it was just Venom and Carnage. And when it's just the two of them, no big deal. It only looks bad when it's like, when there's an actual human being there. So when his mask like pulls away and you see his face, or times when one of the symbiotes was wrapped around a human body, then it looked kind of janky. It just didn't look realistic. So not a big deal, but things I noticed. Other than that, one thing that I also didn't like at the very beginning is that Carnage, what was his name? Cletus Cassidy, Woody Harrelson. They had a different actor for the younger version of Cletus Cassidy, but for some reason, they used Woody Harrelson's voice as an overdub for that person. And I don't know why they did that. That was a very odd choice. I don't know why he needed to have the same voice, because it didn't match up at all. I don't know if there's ever been an example of a person overdubbing on someone else's lips that has ever looked natural. It's just so unrealistic, and it's so hard to do. I'm just surprised they went that option, because it just didn't look realistic. It very obviously wasn't that actor's voice, and it looked very odd, so that was a very odd choice to me. But one thing I did like, they did Cletus Cassidy's origin story, but they did that whole animation style. The reason I like that is because it's very common for these superhero movies to do origin stories of going all the way back to their childhood, but they're always horrible because they get these very young child actors and they're just never good. Like 1 in a million child actors has actual talent and can pull something off, and that's almost never the case. All these other movies like X-Men and stuff like that, they had scenes where they flash back to them as children. It's always so stupid. The child actors, it's horrible. So I'm glad they didn't do that, and I'm glad they just did a basic animation really quickly. It was just a very short scene to just wrap up his story. It didn't go deep into it. They didn't have this whole half-hour-long thing of him being a child. I was okay with that. I liked the animation style anyway, and it gave a brief little clip of his life and all the murders he did, and it didn't make it silly in any way, so I like that they did that. I appreciate that. One major complaint I do have about the movie is that it needed to be rated R. It really did. For those of you who don't know, the first Venom movie was slated to be rated R. The trailer said rated R, and that was like one of the first Marvel movies to be rated R. It was right after Logan came out, and it was right after Deadpool came out, so it was finally happening. They were making these movies rated R, and Venom really needed to be. And then about a month before that movie came out, they changed it to PG-13. And Tom Hardy said in an interview that they cut out all the good parts of Venom. I said that complaint about the original movie. Venom wasn't in it that much, and that's because they cut it all out. All the biting off heads and ripping people apart, they just kind of cut all that out of the movie, and it just never appeared again. They didn't even do a director's cut release on the DVD, so no one ever got to see those scenes, and they were just lost to time. And that's so unfortunate, and that bothered me, because the whole time I was watching the first movie wondering, what am I missing? What are the good scenes that they cut out that I'm not seeing? And the same here. I was okay with it in the first movie. I really wasn't okay with it this time because Cletus Cassidy is a serial killer. He was murdering people left and right and biting heads off, and the camera would just kind of pan away. And then you'd see the headless body drop, and there's no blood, of course. And it's just so unrealistic and so stupid. And the same in the jail scene where he's murdering people left and right, and you see all the bodies afterward, and there's just no blood anywhere. And it's like, that's just ridiculous. They're taking it too far now, and they really needed to make this one rated R. It really should have been, and I'm sad they didn't. If I had to guess, it has something to do with the Marvel partnership, that they didn't want to be associated with rated R. I don't know, but they should have the first time around. It made plenty of money, and this one should have been rated R too. So that's my number one main complaint, and when you see it, you'll notice too that they were very much holding back on certain things and edited it in a certain way where it just kind of looks silly. And it's just a shame because it really could have been great otherwise. Other things to note, we don't know what's happening now. So, spoiler alert for the after credits scene, it had Spider-Man in it. I had it spoiled for me, which I'm bummed about. I'm too curious, though. Every time I see YouTube videos that say end credit scenes, I can't help but watch it. And then I watch it, and then I regret it because I wish I'd waited till the movie. But Spider-Man was in it, and Venom is apparently in the MCU now. It's very confusing. It left more questions than it answered because Kevin Feige recently said in an interview before that they had no plans to bring Venom in the MCU, and now apparently I guess he is technically in it. I don't know. I always thought that Spider-Man and Venom were in the same universe, but apparently not. Apparently Venom's in a completely different universe than Spider-Man ever was, and now he's been transported like the other Marvel villains into that. So very confusing. And that just means that Spider-Man No Way Home is going to be a crazy movie. There's going to be so much going on. It's going to have to be like 3 hours long to cover all the things that are going to happen there. It's going to be so nuts. But I'm glad it's happening. We all thought we'd have to wait a few years and a few sequels to get that crossover, and apparently it's happening now. That doesn't technically confirm that he'll be in Far From Home, but I can't imagine him not being now since he's in that universe. But they may hold it off for the third one. Who knows? But that's very exciting, though, that they're finally going to do the crossover. If they do a third Venom movie, which we don't know if they are, it's for sure going to have Spider-Man and Venom. And we don't know what happened to Carnage. I can't imagine them killing the character off because he's a big deal. He's a very popular character, not just in the Spider-Verse, just in Marvel in general. So if I had to guess, I'm guessing that Venom is now ported over into the Spider-Man universe, and there's going to be a different version of Cletus Cassidy that will be Carnage. Because he's too big of a character to just have him killed off in one movie. I would be shocked if they did that. They would be missing out on millions of dollars if they did that. So I can't imagine that being the case. So maybe Woody Harrelson was just a one-off, an older version of him, and maybe they'll have a younger version in this new universe that Venom's in. That's my speculation. Same with Shriek. It looked like she died at the end, but I don't think she actually did. And for those of you who don't know, the officer at the end, they showed his eyes lighting up. He's supposed to be Toxin. He's another symbiote character, which, correct me if I'm wrong, is the offspring of Carnage. So it goes, I'm pretty sure it was Riot, then Venom, then Carnage, then Toxin, I think. So supposedly that agent's supposed to be Toxin, but who knows? Like maybe, I don't know. It's so confusing what universe they're in now. If Venom's going to come back, who's going to be Carnage, blah, blah, blah. But if they do end up just having Carnage dead, that's going to be a real shame. That's going to be such a shame. I can't imagine them actually doing that. So, yeah. Those are my overall thoughts of it, things I liked, things I didn't like. But overall, I did enjoy the movie. And for that reason, I'm going to give it an overall score of 7 out of 10. I do think it's enjoyable. I don't know if it'd be as enjoyable to the average viewer. Venom and Carnage are very popular characters, so I assume that people going to see the movie like those characters. But I can't imagine someone that isn't familiar with it enjoying it quite as much, so they might get a little bit of a lower score. But as a Venom and Carnage fan, I'm going to give it a 7 out of 10. So, Let me know your thoughts down in the comments, especially if you've seen the movie. What are your speculations on what's going to happen here? Is he going to show up in the Spider-Man movie? What are they going to do with Carnage? Is he dead for sure? Do they just not care about him? What's going to be the future? Are they going to do a Venom 3? I want to hear your thoughts and your thoughts on the movie too. Do you agree with the things I said? Do you disagree? Either way, let's hear it. Things you like, things you didn't like. All that stuff and more in the comments, and we'll continue the discussion there. Thank you for all the people that do comment on a regular basis. I love talking to you in the comments and getting your thoughts on it as well. Please do so more and more. Other than that, we'll see you on the next video. We got more movies coming up, more boxes to review, more nerdy news. So I'll see you in about a week, maybe a little bit longer, maybe a little less. Who knows? We'll see you when I have time. Other than that, thank you for watching and supporting. Love you all. Peace.